All right, everyone. Let's kick off the NFL way too early power rankings. We started off last episode tackling 1 through 10. So this episode, we will tackle 11 through 20. I guess I'll start off this time again. And I'm going to kind of do how you did last time, Lawrence, where you broke off into tiers just before you started ranking. I think
Mhm.
for my, 1 through 10, those are teams that, hey, they should make the playoffs. And those are teams that, if things go right, should definitely have a chance to make their respective championship games, right? Besides the
Totally.
top, besides the top five ish, who have, I mean, obviously the best shot to make the championship and make the Super Bowl. All of the teams on that list that we discussed the last episode could have a shot to make the championship game. So today, when we talk about 11 through 20, I would say my 11 through 15 are teams that, if things go right, they should make the playoffs. Because, as you know, at NFL, they expand the playoffs. There's 7 seeds now. Only the number 1 seed in each conference gets the bye. So, with that being said, there's 14 teams that make it. I'm about to go off with the first half of my list, which is going through 15. Those are teams that, if things go right, they should make the playoffs. And then the back half, 15 through 20 or 16 through 20, are teams that, might need a little help, might need a trade here or there. But if things go right, they could slip into the playoffs. They could slip into that wild card game. So I'm gonna kick off. I'm gonna do my first five. At 11, I have the Lions. I know you picked them on your list last episode, right?
No,
I
I'm at
have
10.
at
So
10. So
we're
yeah,
right next to each other.
I'm just a spot behind you. And like you said last episode, the schedule is easy or easy enough for them. Jared Goff had a good season last year compared to his standards. Um, I know a couple of his wideouts, too busy gambling at the facility, so he's gonna be down a wideout or two the first 8 weeks or something, but he might not need him. Talking about Jameson Williams, if you didn't know already, but they still have Elmar St. Brown. They drafted what's that kid out of Alabama?
Oh, you're talking about
Jameer.
quarterback? You got Jameer Gibbs.
They got Gibbs. There's some good first round picks, even though we kind of dogged on them. But just because of their schedule, just because of how they played last year, they should make their playoffs. The Vikings are kind of shaky. We'll see how Kirk Cousins plays out this year. And speaking of Vikings, I have them at 12. So the Vikings at 12. They got Justin Jefferson. They drafted another receiver. I'm blanking on the name, but they drafted another receiver in the first round. They let Adam Thielen go, who at his age was just slow and pretty much just a short route guy. Could get you a first down if needed, but really didn't play all that well. They got T.J. Hawkinson in a trade with the Lions, surprisingly. So the offense is looking good. Defense is still suspect, and we still have to find out what they're going to do with Dalvin Cook. Are they going to keep him? Are they going to cut him? Are they going to kind of restructure that contract to make it good for both sides? We have yet to see, but with or without Cook, they should still, in that division, they should still make the playoffs because the Bears and the Packers, they ain't it. They ain't it. So I see them making the playoffs once again this year, but I have them at number 12. Number 13, we have the Giants. And some people might say this is a little bit too high. And I feel like just off of last season's success, I feel like they have a lot to build off of. That's instilled a lot of confidence into DG, Vanilla Vic, Daniel Jones, and he got the contract that he wanted. Um, I think did they draft a receiver too. I'm not too sure, but their only hiccup is basically Saquon. Does Saquon hold out all off season? Does he hold out a game or two in the regular season? That's probably gonna make or break, possible outcome of like a couple games for them early on. So with that lingering over their head, it is a little frightening. But I still think they should make the playoffs in that pretty tough division with the Eagles and the Cowboys. So I got them at 13. 14, I have the Dolphins. You might say it's too low. Some you might say, hey, the Dolphins are a really good team. They just picked up Jalen Ramsey. I agree with all that. Hey, the secondary is nice. Your wide receivers are nice. You got Waddle. You got Tyreek. You lost Gasecki, but you weren't going to pay him anyway. But it's just their quarterback, man. Their quarterback, he just stays hurt too much, and I don't trust Tua. I don't trust him enough for him to stay healthy. It's just hit after hit. It, I just fear for his safety, and I'm sure he won't get concussed as much, but I feel like it's gonna be something else this year. Like it won't be a concussion. It'll be something else. It might be like an ankle. It might be a hip. It might be like a shoulder or something.
Mm-hmm.
I think something's gonna happen to that team. And then they brought in Mike White as his backup, a gunslinger. Those two wide receivers. That's pretty much what you need. Just have someone to air the ball out, then they'll go run up under it and catch it. So they have a decent backup just in case Tua gets hurt. Whenever he does get hurt. And I feel like they'll slip in the back half of the playoffs. And then at 15, I have the Seahawks, who had an excellent draft. They were one of my A grades on the NFC side of the draft when we did our draft grades a couple of episodes back. I feel like for them, because of their draft, they will keep their playoff position from last year. But I feel like we will see a regression of Geno, even though he does have JSN as like a short to intermediate, route runner who can give him easy first downs. I feel like when guys are on the cusp of being paid, they always overachieve, right? Because they want to get paid, they want to get the bag. So I feel like we will see a slight regression from Geno. Not enough to totally derail their playoff efforts, but definitely they will probably slide into that last playoff spot, kind of like last year. So, and their defense is still gonna be suspect. They didn't totally clean up the defense. They still got some holes here and there, and I'm not sold on them. So, I got Seahawks as my number 15. What you got for me?
All right, so my first 10, I went a little AFC heavy. I had 6 teams. I had 6 teams in my top 10 from the AFC. And looking at my top 20, 11 through 20, I got 5. So I'm obviously thinking that the AFC is a little bit better than the NFC. But to start off my list, at number 11, I said it last time, I had the Lions and the Ravens, basically equal with each other. I put the Lions ahead of the Ravens just because of the division. The Bengals are going to probably beat the Ravens twice. The Browns are going to give the Ravens a tough time. Steelers are going to give the Ravens a tough time. The Lions don't have that. They have the Vikings give them a tough time. So I got the Ravens at number 11. I think with Lamar getting paid, I think that's what he needed. He's going to go out there and he's going to do his thing. I think their kryptonite and their big problem and their big setback is going to be wide receiver, like it always has been and like it still will be. I just don't think Odell is, at the beginning of the season, they're going to have to try to use him like a number one. And I just don't think he's a good number one. And I think any team's top corner is going to shut him down really good and really easily. So I think he's going to be pretty ineffective until later in the back half of the season when he goes to a number 2/number 3 wide receiver kind of role. But that's going to take the Zay Flowers developing, maybe Devin Duvernay or Humphrey actually stepping up and making a bigger name for themselves this season. I mean, Devin Duvernay did a pretty good job last season, so I'm not going to give him too much crap. But being a number one, Devin Duvernay is very questionable. I mean, at this point in time, your number one receiver, we're just going to call it receiver, is Mark Andrews, which is completely fine. I know we don't really consider tight ends wide receivers, and that's fine. But they still go out there and they receive the ball. So in terms of receiver, Mark Andrews is definitely this team's number one. Like I said last time, if the Ravens utilize Isaiah Likely a lot more, like they did some certain times this season, in this past season, I think they're in a golden opportunity. I think they can move up a lot more than just 11 for me if they actually utilize Likely. That's just because it's going to be a 2 tight end set every time. And that's something that should work really well with a wide receiver, with a quarterback like Lamar, because he wants to scramble a lot, and your best friend when you scramble, according to Cam Newton, is your tight end, and all those years to Greg Olson, that's what he did so well. That might be why Mark Andrews looks a little inflated, um, but he does a great job at it, especially in the red zone. Isaiah Likely is a headache in the red zone. So if they get down to the red zone, their tight ends are going to be so effective. I think it's going to be their wide receivers getting them down to the end zone that's going to be the problem. So at 12, I have the Dolphins. Just pretty high. I don't think Tua finishes the season, and I think Tua may or may not retire this season. I didn't think he was such a good pick when they picked him, anyways. However, I think with the backups of Skylar Thompson and Mike White, I think they're going to do enough to make the playoffs or be around contention for the playoffs. But their defense is really good. All they've done is bolster their cornerback room. They've improved their safety room. So the back half, secondary wise, they're great. They're going to be completely A-okay. It's going to be that front line that played really good at certain points of the season. They're a lot young, but that's okay that your front four is young. However, when you're just looking at that offense, it's just so pretty. And they got a coach that can utilize that kind of offense. So I think regardless of anything, just because of coaching and just because of the way the roster's developed, they're going to get enough wins to get in the playoff contention, which is why I got them around 12. I got the Giants at the same place you do at 13. I think the Giants are in a great spot. They were a playoff team last year. I think this team goes as far as Saquon carries them. I'm not much in the Daniel Jones carrying them kind of realm, but I think it's more so how far Saquon can carry them. Last season, Saquon carried them really far, got them to the playoffs where he was quickly nullified, and then they completely crumbled. Otherwise, other than that, the defense is mediocre. It'll keep you in a game.
Okay.
It'll keep you in a game. So that moving forward, as long as your defense can keep you in a game, can the offense score? I still think they need a true number one, just true number one wide receiver. They don't even have a true number. I wouldn't say true number one. They don't even have an outstanding tight end either. So offensively, this team is as good as Saquon is.
And well, they traded for Darren Waller, didn't they?
Okay, like I just said, this team is as good as Saquon can carry them. Darren Waller, outside of 2 good seasons at the Raiders, he's just been injury prone and pretty much irrelevant. So, last year he was ranked really high as a tight end and played like 7 whole games. That was just pathetic. That's just people not understanding who plays and who doesn't play. There were much better tight ends out there than he was, and he still got notoriety for no reason.
He didn't get paid.
So I'll keep the hate up. He's a good player. He's just inconsistent on playing. And I just have beef with players who just don't play enough and get credit for it. 14, I went Vikings. I think the fact that Brian Flores is now the defensive coordinator is going to be pretty important. I think it's going to make I think it's going to change a lot for them defensively, because one of the reasons why they suck so bad is their defense failed them multiple times in games. It wasn't their offense, it was their defense. It wasn't Kirk Cousins, it was their defense. Their offense is just going to get better because Adam Thielen, for what they need, he just wasn't it. I think Adam Thielen has found a better home in Carolina because they're gonna use him to get slant routes, and they're gonna use him to get curl routes. If you look at the Vikings offense, that's not what they do. They don't run slants, they don't run curls. Thielen is a good route runner, but he doesn't have the speed to beat anyone like that anymore. So it was time for him to go find a new place, because what they want to do is light you up, run all over you, play big boy ball. Adam Thielen's not big, he's not fast. It was time to let him go, and they did. So T.J. Hawkinson will bulldoze a man if he has to. Jefferson can go up high and catch a ball. TJ Hawkinson go high and catch a ball. So this team is built to go high, be fast, and to basically just keep the ball moving quickly on offense, which does tire out a defense. And the only way to kind of combat that is to play an aggressive defensive style. Like, all right, let's get the quarterback. Let's get to him. Let's get to him. Let's blitz, blitz, blitz. Try to get the other team off the field quickly so I don't have to stay on the field very long, which is what Brian Flores does as a defensive coordinator. So I think it was a great move picking him up to become the defensive coordinator, because that was the problem with the team. Offensively, they were great. Defensively, they were horrible. So if I make my defense, coaching-wise, I make it 3 times better, but player-wise, it's pretty much the same. Well, the coaching is going to make up for some of the players' faults. He's going to come in there with a better game plan every week. He's going to utilize the talent he has every week. I mean, the Vikings showed last season that if they just blitzed a little bit more, they wouldn't have been in so many problems. And that's all they're going to do now is blitz, blitz, blitz. And I think based on the NFC and who they have to play in the NFC, these are very blitzable teams to take advantage of. So I don't think many of the NFC teams have the best O-lines. I think the majority of the better O-lines are in the AFC. So you have to take advantage of every team's weakness that you have to play majority of the time. 15, I got the Steelers. They might be a little high. I just put them here mainly because Mike Tomlin. That's kind of why. I don't think they're a very good team, but let's face it, Mike Tomlin almost always, and I mean almost always, makes the playoffs. So I think last year was like one of the first times he didn't make the playoffs. However, Mike Tomlin is 18-1 on Monday Night Football. That just goes to prove how good of a coach he is. Tell me someone else who's gone, 18-1. The only person I know winning that many times is The Undertaker on WrestleMania. So,
and he shouldn't have lost.
And he should never have lost. So Mike Tomlin should never have lost his Monday Night Football. And I'm going to go back and find out who made him lose on Monday Night Football. And I'm going to condone them because that's just not right. I mean, however, they got Kenny Pickett coming back for another year. Their draft was outstanding. I already talked about their draft, but their draft was outstanding. They had a great draft. Like that movie Draft Day when the owner walks in and he was like, "We had a really good draft." So, I mean, that's just how you have to say the Steelers. I mean, they got their boy. They got they got Porter Jr. I don't know how anyone ever let him go back there, but that's going to be a great pickup for them. So, defensively, they just got better again. Like, that secondary is just always, every single year, so scary, so hard to throw against. They may always give up a bunch of yards, and they're okay with that. The one thing the Steelers don't let you do is score a lot of points. They'll let you they'll break. I mean, they'll bend. They just don't break. And I think that's one of the things that is important to this team. I mean, they improved his O-line, so they're actually hoping that Kenny Pickett gets some more time to throw the ball. Outside of their wide receiving core being, it's kind of hit or there, but they're young, and they got a young quarterback. So hopefully this offseason they're taking enough time to hang out with each other and get chemistry and make some noise. That's kind of what I think the Steelers shall do, is make some noise. I think they'll be around the playoff hunt. I don't know if they'll make the playoffs. I think they'll be in a fighting position for it, though.
Okay. Steelers are pretty high. They're definitely higher than I have them on my list. And you might not hear them tonight, so that's I like that.
Mike Tomlin, baby. Mike Tomlin.
One hell of a coach.
He's top 3 current coach. Maybe top 2. No, he's probably top 2. Current coaches right now, and probably top 2.
I'll give you that. I will for sure give you that one. Moving on, let's tackle our next 5. So for me, like I said earlier, 16 through 20. Hey, these are teams that... Hello there, and welcome to the MTL Sports Podcast. Thank you for watching this video clip of one of our most recent episodes. Please drop a like, drop a comment in the comment section below, and also please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and also hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date with the most recent MTL Sports Podcast content. For those that don't know, we are also available on Spotify for those who listen audio only. Once again, thank you so much, and this is the MTL Sports Podcast. You whip up my appetite.